Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video on the Yi Compact Dash camera. Now this camera is actually quite cheap. It can be found for around £35 on Amazon.co.uk and around $40 on Amazon USA. Links will be down in the description below, including the full links to the specs of this camera. Now you might be wondering, okay, so what is this and what's the point of it? So essentially this is for people who want to be recording in their car, so have like a dash cam. And it's quite useful because one, it's cheap, two, it can be used for insurance purposes of any sort, or it can just be used for you recording some of your trails or whatever it might be while you're driving. Now in the package you get the camera. As you can see, you've got a mount over here with a 3M adhesive strip. As you can see, I've just removed it in order to put it on my car. You've got a very long micro USB to USB cable, so right now it's plugged into my computer for some power. However, in the car you'll want to plug into your cigarette lighter, and this comes included as well. So essentially you've got everything you need in order to set it up. The only thing that doesn't come included is a micro SD card. Now the micro SD card, it's suggested to have an 80 megabytes per second read-write speed. I would suggest something like the Samsung Evo. That's the one I've got. I've got a 64 gigabyte card inside. In terms of space wise, it accepts up to 64 gigabytes starting from 8 gigabytes. Obviously what happens is that the way it does it is it records movies constantly, and then once it fills up it will start deleting the first movies that are in there. So just bear that in mind. The bigger your card, the more recordings you'll have in there, and the more kind of loops you'll have. Now in terms of the camera itself, the build quality is pretty simple. It's a solid plastic design. It's got a micro SD card slot on the left hand side. It's got a 130 degree angle lens, which is quite nice and wide. It's got a aperture of f2.0, which is decent. It's not amazing, but it's good enough to capture light, especially in dark scenes. Then it's got a micro USB port on the right hand side. Now one thing I should note about the build quality, I wasn't too impressed by the cable being like this. Now the camera has to be used in this direction. Unfortunately, when I put it this way, so for example if you want to put it on the dash, it didn't automatically rotate the video. And therefore you'll get upside down video unless you use editing software. It's going to be kind of annoying. I just find it a little bit particular why this is looped around like that. Now the cable itself is around 3 to 4 meters long. It's very, very long, so that you can route it all the way around your windshield and then away basically from where your gear lever is, or any sort of dash, so you won't be bothered by the cable. So you've got loads of cable to play around with. Now one of the key selling points of this camera is the fact that it also has an app as well. Now the app connects via Wi-Fi, and as you can see it's pretty much instantaneous in terms of how it responds. I must say the app is very responsive. It does take a little while to set up. In other words, you do have to have the camera open with a micro SD card inside and it being plugged in, and then to download the app and then to it connect. If you don't do that in that order, then the app won't properly recognize the camera, and or you won't be able to see this kind of visual. Now within the app it's quite nice because you get to go, say for example in the SD card, you can see all the recordings that have been previously done, and you can play them back straight away. You can also adjust the camera settings directly from the app, which is a lot more intuitive and a lot better to do rather than the camera itself. And of course you can factory reset, format the SD card, and you can also check for the latest firmware. Now the app works flawlessly. I had no problems. I saw some people on Amazon having certain problems with the app. From my tests I had no problem whatsoever, so I can't really complain. Now in terms of the camera itself, you've got various settings. So for example on this button it's a media button. Well, it's not, it's an app right now. If I just exit the app, you can watch your media directly from the camera. You've got the settings button over here, so you can flick between two recording modes, 1080p at 30 FPS and 720p at 30 FPS. Obviously 1080p would be better. Bigger file sizes that will be, but nevertheless I would suggest that. The video duration, you can select if you want the audio on and off. Now the G sensor, now what's quite interesting is that I've put it on low because it's not something I'd use. However, the G sensor essentially recognizes if you were to have an accident, it would automatically create an emergency recording. Now the emergency recording can be manually triggered by pressing this button. If I press it over here, you'll see EMR recording. through the settings button, you can have that to automatically pick it up. So for example, if your car was hit and the camera were to bump like that, it would automatically trigger that emergency recording, which essentially picks up several minutes before the actual movement, in order to pick up, say, the accident or something that happened. So it's a quite useful feature if you were to use it. Other than that, you've got various settings, so button sounds, power on and off sounds, date and time, which is very useful because you get a timestamp per video, very useful in order for insurance purpose or anything like that. You've got the Wi-Fi, which I'm going to disable over here, brightness, and then the LCD if it's going to time on and off. Very easy to understand settings, and if you've got any problems or questions, you can always refer to the manual, which you can find online or in the box itself, and then you can go through it. So that's pretty much all the buttons, what they do. You can also pause the recording by pressing this button, so it's no longer recording, and then unpause it by just pressing that button again, and it goes to red recording. Now, in terms of the actual build quality, I've got no problems with that. In terms of price, the app connectivity, all flawless. Now, what's most important is actually its video quality. So right now, you'll be able to see a recording that I did in my car. Now, there you go. In terms of the video quality, you were probably able to see that the sound was pretty bloated, so to speak, even though I'm driving a BMW M3 and it's pretty loud in there anyway. I felt that the camera didn't really properly pick up sound that well, especially if you've got some music or you're driving more higher speeds, then you'll find that the sound feels kind of bloated and it's muffled. So if it's something you're looking at for sound, so in order to record your engine sound or whatnot whilst you're driving, I wouldn't really suggest this camera. I don't think it's built for it. However, in terms of normal video quality, it's decent. It's not amazing, but given the fact that it's around £35, you can't expect the world for it. You can't expect a crystal clear, sharp image. However, it is decent and it does what it says on the tin. It does recordings as a dash cam. Now, in terms of low light performance, I did test that as well. Now, the low light performance was, I would say, shaky. It was okay in certain areas, but when it got really pitch black, the camera kind of struggled to pick up all the bright lights. But however, if you're on a motorway, so in other words, if you're not on like a dirt track or some sort, then you won't have any problems using this camera, as it'll pick up all the lights and whatnot. But there is more image noise. There's extra image noise in low light conditions, so just bear that in mind, that it won't be the best quality in the world. So if you're going to do it for like a trip or an adventure of sorts and you want to vlog it down, just expect the quality to be where it's at. So there we go, guys, that's my review. In my opinion, I think it's a fantastic camera. It's not amazing in terms of its video quality, but in all honesty, at £35, obviously minus the micro SD card that you'd have to buy separately, I think it does what it says on the tin. It's a cheap dash cam, has wireless functionalities, has all the normal buttons, and it comes with all the right accessories. You don't have to buy anything else, as I said, apart from the micro SD card. So I would recommend it if it's something that you're looking for. Just bear in mind its flaws or its kind of drawbacks, and just bear in mind what you are buying for the price. So there you guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and check out the link in the description below for the specs and in case you're interested in buying it. Alright guys, Totally Dubbed out. Bye bye.